Yo, and what is going on YouTube, and welcome to a new type of video that's going to be on our channel. Now today we're going to talk about the instant and sorcery spells from Commander 19 for signature spells for the Oathbreaker format. Now if you guys are loving the Oathbreaker format, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And if you are interested in MagiKids, the official charity of the Oathbreaker team, make sure to check out those links in the description box down below. But guys, let's jump right on into our first card. Now, our first card for today is going to be Mire and Misery. Now, a sorcery for 1 and a black. Each opponent sacrifices a creature or enchantment. Now, what are we liking about this card? Well, one thing I kind of like about it is that it could be very good for kind of aristocrat style builds where we get extra value off of each of our opponents sacrificing a creature, and we get triggers off of whatever we have on our battlefield. Now, other than that, the things that I'm not liking is that we really just kind of have better creature removal in black. You know, you have Damnation, Toxic Deluge, Black Sun Zenith, things like that, and it also cannot target creatures or enchantments. And what I mean by that is it cannot destroy target creatures. You know, those problem things that you want to remove. You're still giving your opponent kind of the option to choose what they want to sacrifice. So overall, I'd kind of give this a 5 out of 10. Now, I'm not saying you wouldn't want to run this as a signature spell, but I don't think it necessarily lends itself to being a signature spell for this Oathbreaker format. Now, our next card is going to be Mandate of Peace. Now, for 1 and a white, an instant where you cast this spell only during combat. Now, your opponents can't cast spells this turn, and we get to end the combat phase and remove all attackers and blockers from combat and remove everything from the stack. Now, I actually kind of really like this card. It slows down aggro decks to kind of buy additional time to kind of set up your combo. You could attach this to an Isochron Scepter and just kind of cast it over and over and over. Of course, that wouldn't be as a signature spell, but it's something that we could do in the 58. Now, the things we don't really like about this, cons, you know, it's really only good against creature types of decks. Now, if we sit down with 3 other players that are playing all burn strategies, you know, this is really not a very you know, good card for that. And I feel if this is in the command zone, your planeswalker is going to be targeted by attacks kind of over and over, just because they are never going to want you to cast Mandate of Peace on them. But I think overall I'm going to give this a 6.5 out of 10. It's still a very, very good card. I think it's definitely warranted in the 58 in white, just because we can, you know, it kind of buys you that additional time, almost like a Teferi's Protection in a way. A very good card. But let's go into the next card, and I think that's going to be Mass Diminished. Yep. 1 in a blue, a sorcery that has flashback for 3 in a blue. Until your next turn, creatures target player controls have base power and toughness of 1/1. Now, what I really like about this card is that we're kind of leveling the playing field for one of our opponents. Now, it's kind of an easier way to kind of manipulate the board. If we're going to cast a Toxic Deluge, you know, we only have to do it for 1. We could cast a Massacre Worm, you know, Black Sun Zenith on 1. It just makes that a little bit easier. Things I don't really like about it is that it's sorcery speed and that it really only targets 1 player. If this targeted all opponents, this would be incredible. But just since it's 1 opponent, it's not great. I would probably give this a 5 out of 10. I'm not sure it really even would be considered for a signature spell. We can't use flashback from the command zone. I'm not really sure. I think it's all right in the 58, just because it can kind of give you some leverage, especially in blue. But it's something to think about. Our next card is going to be one I'm really interested in, and that's Full Flowering. XX and green, a sorcery where we get to populate X times. Now, to populate, we get to create a token that's a copy of a creature token we already control, and we're going to do this X number of times. Now, I really love this for token decks. Like a green-white Ajani the Great-Hearted. or where we're gaining life when creatures enter the battlefield. We have cards like Doubling Season, Anointed Procession, where we're just going to get multiple tokens just over and over and over. We're going to get all these triggers for creatures entering the battlefield. The only thing I really don't like about this card is that the tax as a signature spell would be kind of a negative. Although I'm really, really interested in this card, and I think I'm probably going to end up doing something with it. So I'd probably give this a 7 out of 10, and that's just because I don't know how powerful it is. I have a feeling this is actually really good as a signature spell, and it's something that you guys will probably see in a deck tech in the next couple of weeks. Now, the next card is Ignite the Flame. Now, 3 and a red, a sorcery. Exile the top 3 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you can play those cards. If the spell was cast from a graveyard, you can play those cards without paying their mana cost, with a flashback of 7 and a red. Now, the one thing that we would need to kind of make this better is some top deck manipulation. In maybe an Is It deck where we can, brainstorm, stack our deck, and then cast Ignite the Future, and we can cast those cards off and kind of storm off that way. But otherwise, the part about Flashback not being able to be used from the command zone, I feel Light Up the Stage is just a better card, especially with the Spectacle for a red. And I also feel it's just too dependent on the top deck. If you cast this and then you hit 3 lands with any sort of prior mana, deck manipulation, I'm just not in love with it. I'd probably give this a 4 out of 10. I just really don't think it's very good. And honestly, I don't even know if I would put this in the 58 of a deck. Now, our next card is going to be Sabines Reclamation. 2 and a white, a sorcery, where we return target permanent card with CMC 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. If this was done from the graveyard, you may copy this spell and choose a new target. Its flashback cost is 4 and a white. Now, I really like this for recursion and for like white weenie decks. If we have a creature that kind of just left the battlefield, something that kind of something that triggers when a human enters the battlefield, we can get additional value off of Sabines Reclamation that way. But again, it's that flashback from the command zone that we just can't use. And I don't know how great this would be after the tax. It's 3 mana for its first cast, 5 mana for a CMC 3 or less. I just don't see that being very good. It's extremely limiting. I just think there's better recursion in white, like Resurrection or Breath of Life. I'd probably only give this a 4 out of 10. I don't really love it. I'm not even sure if, I'm actually personally, I'm really interested in that Jeskai Commander Precon deck, and I'll probably be picking that one up first. But I'm just really not in love with this for the Oathbreaker format. Now, the last card we are going to look at for today is going to be Nightmare on Making. Now, 3 black for a sorcery where we choose 1. We exile each creature with power greater than the number of cards in your hand, or we exile each creature with power less than the number of cards in our hand. Now, I really like this because it's an exile board wipe. Not only is it just removing these creatures, but it's just completely removing them from the game. We have different modes, and those are modes we can manipulate by manipulating the number of cards in our hand. That's something that we can kind of play into a kind of a discard themed deck. The only question I would ask is there better board wipes in black? Damnation just kind of, destroys all creatures. Toxic Deluge, Bantu's Last Reckoning. There's so many options in black to kind of wipe the board, as well as all other colors. I'm not sure this is amazing. I'm not sure if it's worth using as a signature spell, especially just as a board wipe. So I would probably give this a 6 out of 10 overall. I do like it, and I think I would definitely put this in the 58 as one of my board wipe options, but I'm not sure I would play this as a signature spell. Now, guys, that's going to be it for this Oathbreaker video. If you guys are liking this kind of style of video, make sure to leave a comment down below, and if you are going to pick up any of the Commander Precons, let me know which ones you guys are picking up, and if you are interested in any of the Instant and Sorcery spells in there as signature spells, and maybe we can bust out some different deck techs over the next couple of weeks. But guys, that's going to be it. Make sure